Okay, and we're live. So yeah, welcome back to Staying Connected, everyone. This is episode 74. And nice warm media-savvy welcome to our guest today. So if you want to start off, Reema, with who you are and where do you work?
Yeah, hiya everybody. I'm Reema Goldsmith. I'm married with a little girl from South Shields, but I live in Milton Keynes, and I work for the Spinal Injuries Association, who are based in Milton Keynes, their headquarters. SIA are the leading charity for anybody who's got a spinal cord injury or anybody affected by spinal cord injury. So there's about 50,000 people living in the UK with SCI. Everything that we do is geared towards those people being able to lead fulfilled lives. My job is as partnerships coordinator, but what that means is that I work in the fundraising team. So the team that I'm in do everything that is sort of challenge and community events, so bike rides, marathons, swimathons, skydiving. We also look after all of the charity's corporate partners, so all the organisations that support our work. And the team that I'm in actually covers special events too, so think black tie dinners, that kind of thing. We've got a bit of an internal joke about being the anything and everything team, because if it's not individuals donating and it's not trusts, then it's kind of throw it over to us and we'll get stuck in.
We'll sort it out.
Yeah, exactly. So I've put together there's a video that Haytham's going to play for us, which just kind of gives you some facts and figures about the impact that the charity has.
Yeah. And I should have loaded it while you were talking. However, I'm not very good at my job, so I haven't done that. So if you just bear with me a second, guys, I'll swap over to the videos that Reema has prepared. Bear with me. As you'll remember from watching all the Staying Connected, the video comes on real loud. So I'm just going to pause it and I'm going to drop the volume a little bit so that nobody goes deaf in the course of this stream. So we'll play that there. Okay, hang on a second, I'm getting a warning message. I'm going to keep playing the video. Let me know if that's dropped out a little bit. I think we're back. Second, right. Okay, I'm going to pause that video there. I'm going to double check that we are still going. I got a bit of a warning there, an internet warning, so I'm just going to double check with the guys that you can see us. sometimes the preview on YouTube decides that it's not working anymore, so I can't see what's going out live. That is one of the key features of Stay Connected. It likes to do that and triggers, which is always handy. So I'll just double check. But yeah, so we played the impact video out there. I'm just going to refresh this page. Something always goes wrong. It's like a weekly occurrence. It's YouTube likes to just keep you guessing. As far as I can see, I'm still live.
Okay.
So we had the impact video there. Are we connected? Yeah, still going. Cool, great. Thanks for that. Right, so we're back. Cool. We had a little bit of a drop off there, so hopefully that won't happen again. So we've had a little look at or a little sort of chat about the impact there. That was for 1920. So obviously we're in a sort of a new era now.
Yeah.
How's it? You know what I'm going to ask next.
you could say that.
Yeah. So obviously that, like, day to day, like pre-COVID, what you were saying you would be doing loads of different events, and it was a sort of an all encompassing sort of thing. How's it going now in the current climate?
I mean, the reality is that if you ask me what a typical day is, even pre-COVID, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
In a job like ours, and I think I alluded to it earlier when I said with sort of the everything and anything in between team.
Yeah.
You know, but typically there'd be a whole calendar of events across the year. So it could be marathons and cycle rides and skydiving days, and going and doing like speaking slots if somebody's raised money through a community event, if they've put on their own like black tie dinner or something.
Yeah.
And you'd be doing lots of out attending evenings and weekends, and standing on sidelines in t-shirts with runners cheering people on. And
yeah.
Obviously in 2020 there's basically none of that, because everything's been cancelled for obvious reasons. Everybody needs to stay safe. There's been a huge shift to online and virtual events, as everybody might expect. Probably the first big example that we saw of that was the 2.6 challenge, which was back in April. So it was on the weekend that the London Marathon was supposed to have been, which obviously was postponed and now it's subsequently been completely cancelled. And that was actually really great because it was what I'd call a proper community event. So anybody could get involved, whether they were part of the London Marathon team or not. Okay. And they could pretty much do anything that was centered around the number 2.6 or 26 or 260, whatever.
Yeah.
And I know that obviously you guys were involved in that.
Just about to say. We managed to rope us in as well.
With your rowing challenge, and one of your learners, I think he's one of your learners, is it a guy called Terry?
Terry's he's a friend of the business.
Right. And he's, I believe, spinal cord injured himself, and he did 26 basketball hoop shoots with his son to raise a bit of money for us. So thank you again for that. And
he hadn't played in about 3 years, he was saying. So I don't know if he's got back into it, but he was saying that might be the spark to get him back involved. So yeah,
brilliant. It didn't show. There was only
he did better than I would have, to be fair.
Yeah. So virtual seems to be the way it's gone, and all of the other big event organisers have kind of followed suit. So Ride London, which is the 100-mile cycle ride through London in the southeast, that turned into a virtual event. We took part in that as a family. Yeah. The Great North Run, as you'll all know, went virtual, and we had a couple of entrants doing that. And then the London Marathon, because it ultimately had to be cancelled, they put on a virtual event as well. Yeah. So yeah, the job has very much changed from supporting people in exactly the same way as we always did. They get all the same support and information and advice and guidance about fundraising, and they still get a pack with a t-shirt and all the rest of it. It's just that we do it remotely and we can't go and cheer them on the day on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think the remote thing is massively important though. Because a lot of like services and a lot of places have experienced like it's just a cliff sort of drop really in their availability. Like, okay, we can do all this, and then now that they've had to pivot to virtual, it's like we've got nothing, we've got no infrastructure to do it as well. Yeah. So it's good that like around what you guys are doing, obviously the fundraising's managed to have. Obviously, I'm guessing it's probably not the same levels, but it's the best of a bad situation, I assume.
I would say that there's definitely some things to look positively and optimistically and thankfully on. Like we're not where we wanted to be when we were setting our targets for the beginning of the year, because we knew in March that we were going to have to just scale things back to what we'd first put in plan. But I would say that given where we thought we might be in March, we've actually done okay. We've had a fair response, and our supporters have come out and generously gotten behind us, so it's really lovely to see.
No, definitely. Sue, who was when we did the 2.6 challenge, she was talking about at the end of lockdown she might very well be doing some fundraising stuff. So she's saying in the chat there that she might need your help when it comes to it.
That's what I'm here for. So, anybody who's interested in doing anything and they just want to bounce ideas, or they say, oh, I've got an idea for a challenge event, like something I want to do myself, but I don't know how to fundraise. I've never done it before. All that's we've got resources we can email, stuff we can post out, because there's still, even though the majority of the staff are working remotely, there are still a few of us going into SIA House and making sure that we can still fulfill those kind of basic things for everybody.
So just to clear that up as well, obviously you guys are based in Milton Keynes, but you do have like regional sort of staff as well, right? And I can talk to you a bit later about this, like the services specifically, and what we do. And there's some named individuals, but we're a national charity, but of course what we're doing on the ground is we're delivering services at a regional level. So if you do want to get in touch, just give us a shout and we can forward some contact details over as well. And the same goes for anyone if you want to be involved or in touch in any way, give one of us a shout and we'll point you in the right direction. We sort of touched on it there, but we've more from a work perspective. Because obviously we're pretty much doing it now. There's one or two of us kicking around in the office. Daniel's in today. Dan's in and out when he can be. But how have you guys adapted in terms of work? With the virtual life that you have to live now?
The thing is, it's good that we've got all this technology at our fingertips, because you can just do what we're doing now. Like, we're having a conversation as if you were sat, I'm at the kitchen table. It's as if you're on the other side of it, And that's been really great. And actually, internally, we've been doing pretty much all of our meetings via Teams, because that's the system that we use. SIA House has never formally closed, but obviously we've all been encouraged to work from home when we can. That when we can is quite a big thing, isn't it? It's like, have you got the right infrastructure? Have you got a physical space that you can work in? Are there other people in the house that make it not the right environment? Do you need access to supplies in the office? So
have you got a nice big headset with a microphone on it as well? You definitely need one of them.
The less said about that, the better. So we've got we've got an office rota for SIA House, which means that those of us who need to work there can, and then those of us who want to or have a reason to pop in occasionally just pop themselves on the rota, and then it means that everybody knows who's coming, who's going, who's got keys and can open the building, and that we're all secure and we're not crossing over into each other's spaces and things. So it seems to be working pretty well, and I'd say that people's adoption of Teams has been really great too, because I'll be honest and say that prior to this I'd barely used it.
I don't think anyone had, honestly. I think the likes of like Zoom, Teams, like even the Google one, I can't remember what it's called, Google Meet or something like that, like there were services that existed, but they were specifically for like probably the financial sector, for people who are working in different, like, there was someone based in like China or Russia monitoring the markets over there and had to be up at 2 a.m. to do like a video call, and it was like and nobody had the infrastructure either. Like, I remember the first week when we went into lockdown, like we realized we were gonna have to all work from home, and I went on Amazon, and like the price of like a USB microphone had gone up by like 40 quid, and it's like, are you mad? Are you joking? But it's because everyone had gone straight on there and ordered everything. Like, okay, I need a like a new extension, I need a microphone, I need headphones, like. So there is that as well. But I think, to be honest, it's worked really well. And this stream right now, the Staying Connected, wouldn't have existed had this not happened as well. Which I think it's been a really good thing. This has been one of the really good things. It's like quite hard to organise, but once we can get the guests on, and it's good little thing to sort of keep everyone in touch. Do you know what I mean? Like it's engaging.
I think we're all going to come out of this with so many more digital skills than we ever had. Even those of us, because I don't like to think of myself as an old person, but every now and again I do sort of go, yes, I am getting to that point where I'm not as tech savvy as I used to be.
Like something new comes out and you're like, oh no, how does this work? Yeah. Like, this isn't a Game Boy. What do you mean?
Yeah. So, no, I think we're all just kind of, hurtling along at speed, learning all these new skills just out of necessity, and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, definitely not. Not if we can do it safely. I think that's the other thing as well. Just keeping on top of the old e-safety, as boring as it is. So yeah, I think the other thing was, you sort of touched on it as well, but how's it? Obviously, you've talked about your role adapting, you've talked about the service adapting. How have you coped with that in terms of, you went from primarily doing everything sort of face to face to now everything's sort of online? How's that affected you in the way you're working and your team as well?
It's definitely hard. It's really difficult not to just be able to jump into a meeting room with the rest of the team and sit around the table and talk about things and have old-fashioned again, but have bits of paper out on the desk and be scribbling notes and all that kind of thing. But I'd say largely we've done okay. It's not always enjoyable. Sometimes it's a little bit challenging. It's a little bit wearing. You get screen fatigue from sitting in front of a video screen all day. But we are all just managing, and I guess we're trying to be quite mindful of not filling our calendar end to end with loads of meetings, loads of online sessions, and having the downtime in between. The charities put a huge emphasis on well-being for staff, so they're always in this place of balancing the needs of their employees and making sure that everybody's looked after and cared for and the duty of care is fulfilled, and obviously the needs of our service users, which are the spinal cord injured people. But with staff stuff, so we've moved from having like a quarterly face-to-face meeting that we had at SIA House where all the regional people would come in and we'd all get together in one big room. We're having much more regular all staff meetings, and then in the agenda we've been putting a bit of social stuff in there. So we've had a bingo session where we had Carol Barraclough, who's one of our support network coordinators. Questionable bingo calling phrase is mine, but she had a good go. So that was quite fun. And then we've got like a in-house quiz master, Simon Pennell. He's our advocacy manager. So we've done an online quiz for the staff, and just a little bit of light-hearted stuff to keep people feeling engaged and like they're not fully missing out on that social stuff with the colleagues.
Yeah, it is a bit like, I feel like you're in a silo a little bit. Like, I've got my tasks, I've got my stuff to crack on with, but like I might be struggling. But whereas before I might have just turned around and gone, oh, give a hand, and now it's like it's not there. So it's can we book a Zoom, like a meeting in, like a Teams meeting, and say, oh, another one. Like,
so we've done things like when a lovely lady called Bernie, who actually retired and she'd done 30 years of service with the charity, she's given so much of her life to the charity. We had like an online retirement party for her, and we had people come and join who were so we all had like cake and stuff, and like in our own little workstations. But we had people who'd left the charity a long time ago, people who were trustees many moons ago. Loads of people come and join that we actually hadn't seen or spoken to in years, all to sort of wish her well, which was really nice. And then for the more sort of ad hoc things, we've got a social channel on our Teams, which is for all staff, and it's just to share photos and memes and funny news things that you've seen. So like, was it me that shared it? Someone shared a picture of the tweet of the CEO who turned himself into a Microsoft Teams potato and couldn't share.
We covered that. Me and Daniel covered that one. It happened to a couple of people that like they were stuck in like a really like serious button down meeting about like I don't know, quarterly reports or whatever you do in a normal business. I wouldn't know. But yeah, he was just a spud for like an hour and a half and he couldn't turn it off.
And like, that's so silly, but also it's just a nice little bit of lightheartedness when you've had a bit of a difficult week and you're feeling a bit isolated,
Makes you feel a bit better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was just
it
about
just
to try
makes you
and
remember
do it,
that everybody's a human being.
Yeah, I wonder if I can do it. Let's have like a special background on here.
Even if they're a potato.
Yeah, I'm going to put some balloons in the background of my camera. Apply. There we go. Oh no. It didn't. Oh yeah, we'll go. Yeah, fine. I've got some balloons. I don't know how to do the face filter one. I haven't worked Teams out to that level yet.
No, let's not. No. Just in case.
Just in case. You never know when you can become a potato. So yeah, I mean, it sounds good. To be honest, it sounds like you're coping really well. I mean, How many staff are we talking here then? Like roughly, do you know?
There's fewer than 50 of us.
Okay.
Yeah. And not everybody was based at SIA House anyway, because the support network officers, which are largely spinal cord injured people themselves,
Yeah.
they're all kind of remotely based anyway because they cover regional areas.
Yeah.
Same with the spinal cord injury nurse and specialists. They've all got their kind of territories, if you like, across the UK. So and then there's people who work in kind of advocacy and campaigns, and we have lots of people who work a bit more remotely, but simply by virtue of the fact that they're out and about with service users all the time, there's not really any value in them having a desk at SIA House.
No, not to come and do like a 4-hour drive just to get to work and then be like, all right, I'm off home then. So this is slightly off the script, mind, so you might not know and you might not be qualified to answer this question, I don't know. But is that something that SIA looks for in terms of recruitment as well, do you think, like that sort of lived experience? I know you mentioned like people with spinal cord injuries do have these, like hold these roles.
Yeah. So with the support network officers, the idea being is that they provide like a proper peer service. And without that lived experience, very difficult to go and sit at the bed under normal circumstances at the bedside of somebody who's just had the news that they've had this catastrophic injury and talk about things, because, you know, it's not just that people always associate it with, oh, I'll never be able to walk again, but actually there's lots of things for them to think about, which is about bowel and bladder function, and they're susceptible to things like urine infections, and there's issues around sexual function. So it's all things that might not come to mind straight away. And actually, when it does, what you know, a lot of our support network officers and nurses actually would say, you give it 5 minutes and you're talking about bowel and bladder function, because that's the stuff that people want to know after they've dealt with the whole I'm never going to walk again.
Yeah. So no, I think that like that is a massively, I think, important thing, and it's something that like a lot of it's so important, like you say, because you can't understand what someone's gone through unless you've sort of gone through it. On that level, obviously there are people who can still help and do other things, but I think in that specific role, that's really important for them to be able to identify with as well.
I'd say there's nobody working at the charity who doesn't have basic empathy skills. That's why we're all there. That's what motivates us.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be in the wrong sector, wouldn't you, if you were working for a charity and you didn't care about people? You're in the wrong business, I think.
Exactly. But for somebody who's actually gone through it, they've gone through that initial shock and that pain, and like, they almost go through a bit of a grieving process when the injury first happens. And then it's kind of helping them. So, you know, the support network officers will have several meetings with somebody over the course of, from when they meet them at injury right through potentially for the rest of the life. And at those points, they'll sort of find out how they're doing in terms of the well-being and the mental health, and how they're getting on with like work-related things and finance-related things, and just being able to say, oh yes, I experienced that, or this was how I approached it.
Or I found this helpful, and that sort of thing.
And with the feedback we get from service users, from spinal cord injured people, and their family and friends as well, who sometimes are affected so profoundly by the injury that they need support, is that they couldn't have gotten to where they are now without the support of the team, without the peer people. So
no, I think that is massively important. So I mean, you touched on some of the services there. Do you guys have like I don't suppose it would be it might be a referral route, but like within, say, like the hospitals and stuff, or is it just like a case by case basis?
Yeah, I mean, loads of the work that we do is about reaching out and creating networks with healthcare professionals and stuff. So there are 11 spinal centres in the UK, and we've got really good links with all of them. We mostly have a presence in them as well, so there'll be like an SIA information board up in the corridor area somewhere, and there's a whole team of volunteers that support, who are also spinal cord injured, who support the support network officer function, and they'll go out like so many days a month into the hospitals and of instances and visit the wards and go and see people who are newly injured or readmitted because they need a certain treatment or something. So yeah, we've got good links. Obviously, when it starts to filter down into people who've ended up in care home settings or in district general hospitals, they can be harder to find.
Okay.
And it does happen that we get people eventually come to us to sign up as members. So to be a full member, you'll be spinal cord injured, and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't know about you," and it's just
Yeah.
because it can be quite fragmented that trying to get to us. But I would say with the main places that are identified as like spinal cord injury specialist places,
Yeah.
then absolutely that link is
Like
there.
that close link.
They'd be put in touch with us to get the support that they needed.
Yeah, not great. Again, like, you know, little bits and pieces that anyone can do to sort of it's profile raising, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
I imagine it is a case of, oh well, we didn't know, and that's and it's
Sometimes,
hard. It is hard as well, especially in the sort of like frontline hospitals as well. Possibly wouldn't, like, it's not something that you would come across every day, if you know what I mean. So it is good to have the community links. I suppose that's going to be where you make your most impact, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, we've talked about the service users and the members. Obviously, how's the sort of lockdown and the increased risk and that sort of thing during COVID? How's that affected them on the very sort of front end service user level?
Yeah, so it's had a massive impact on spinal cord injured people and the members that we support. When somebody who's spinal cord injured, if they were to get coronavirus, they are far more susceptible to extra complications.
Okay.
So whilst they might not be necessarily more likely to get it, if they do get it, it could be much more catastrophic for them.
So do you know, obviously I know you're not a doctor, so I don't know if you will know, but what are the extra complications? Do you know?
So it could be like respiratory issues, because a lot of the spinal cord injured people that we work with have like a higher level injury. So depending on the vertebrae and the spine that's been damaged and how high up the injury is, they could have reduced lung capacity, or they might actually be dependent on a ventilator to breathe for like everyday normal life.
Right.
And so obviously if they were to contract a respiratory infection, that's not great news.
Yeah.
Especially one that is as savage as this one is. So yeah, they are at increased risk if they were to get it. And also a lot of spinal cord injured people have obviously other health complications, not necessarily related to their SIA.
Yeah.
So we've got a huge section of our membership which have been in like the shielding categories as well. So what that's translated into is loads more calls to our support line and referrals to our services, pretty much than we've ever had before, which you might imagine.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the time for it, isn't it? Like, So
on the one hand, you've got all of your kind of core fundraising potentially falling off a cliff, and on the other hand, you've got this huge demand and surge on your services.
Yeah.
It's quite a
balancing act. Yeah, definitely sounds it. But I mean, I suppose that's how it is at the minute. I suppose. I mean, we've spoken to a few other charities, and it's a lot of the same. You know, like, obviously, like, it can't really be overstated how important the events are to the likes, you know, SIA and all the other partners that we work with. Like, it is a massive chunk of their income, and it's just sort of gone. Has obviously, I mentioned in the brief that I sent over, is things like social isolation becoming a problem then, and what kind of stuff have you got to reduce that as well?
Yeah, it definitely can do. Obviously, we've got members who haven't left the house since February, and they also might be people who are working with PAs and carers who are actually coming into the homes to provide personal care. And that's been a big concern for them. They've been a bit concerned about, you know, which other people that these carers might have been working with, and what exposures they've had, and what infections they're potentially bringing into the home. So we've had all of that to contend with. And we've done a big piece of work on providing some, through like some partners and sponsors have provided some PPE for us that we've been able to mail out to members for that kind of stuff. But in terms of keeping in touch, early in the lockdown, we were running a whole week's worth of like online cafes,
Okay.
in conjunction with some of our other partners. And at the moment, we're running a weekly Wednesday drop-in cafe where people can speak to the nurse specialist or to the support network officers or to the counselling service.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a Q&A, and sometimes we, a bit like you, we have other guests on and stuff. So that's nice to keep people in touch with something to look forward to on a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, definitely.
All of the services, the nurse specialists, the support network officers and the council, and they've all kind of moved to doing what they always did, but remotely. So they're still doing video calls and they're still doing telephone. And actually, they're probably being able to have more touch points per day because they're not having to drive
Yeah.
like hundreds of miles to go and visit a unit, a spinal unit or something.
Yeah.
So they potentially can fit in more. Obviously, then that brings its own workload because you end up with a load of follow-up actions when you've had a meeting with somebody and you need to provide them with information and guidance. But
Yeah.
it's positive that the technology's enabled them to kind of carry on as they were.
Oh, definitely. I think. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't speak for you guys, but I think that'll be something that going forward will probably be something that you will look into. I'd imagine in terms of like outreach.
Yeah, definitely.
The only the problem with it, and obviously it's a problem you'll come up against and probably have no solution to, is that we found it quite a bit as well that there's a certain like cross section that don't have access either to equipment.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's specifically like equipment and data are the two problems.
Yeah.
I mean, the term like data poverty is basically one that's banded around a lot, but you don't appreciate what it means until you see someone who hasn't got like an internet connection, and you realize how at the moment how isolating that can be. But I mean, just on that note, like if anyone was struggling with anything like that, and if you guys do need any like tips on it, looking into like what is going on like locally in those areas as well.
Yeah.
There is quite a bit of sort of guidance, and there's a lot of local projects out there as well. It's just knowing where to look for them and how to get in touch with them as well.
Definitely. I mean, we've got a counsel and wellbeing service. We've got the counsel and wellbeing officer. His name's Ian Younghusband, and there's a video for it which we can look at in a minute.
I'll stick that on in a minute.
But I mean, he's providing video and telephone sessions for people who are struggling with the thoughts and feelings around spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
But that service it's kind of been relaunched, and I would say it's in like huge demand, and it's potentially something that over time Ian won't have the resources to deal with alone, and so that's something that might have to grow.
Yeah.
And probably our links with different services where we can refer out and get them support from other resources.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was gonna. I didn't want to like jump the gun a little bit, but that's what I was gonna ask. Was basically because you guys have got quite a, from what I've seen, like a robust like network of support that you do in house. It was just going to be like, do you tap into sort of local areas and local community stuff that's going on wherever the person would be, wherever the service user will be based?
Definitely. So the support network officers will have links with all like local healthcare professionals and things like physio clinics, and when someone phones the advice, like the support line, they might have a question. I mean, we get all kinds of questions. It's basically someone picks the phone up and they'll ask us. It could be absolutely anything. And my colleague Teresa, who largely runs the support line, she will either refer it on to someone internally if it's something that can be dealt with, or she's got links with all sorts of different charities and other government bodies and things that she puts people in touch with, like a signposting service. So that's definitely part of our network, because we do realise that with, we're a charity that runs at sort of a £2.5 million, and we employ fewer than 50 people, so we can't do everything all of the time.
No, definitely not. And like you say, you might do something and then it becomes so popular that actually, hang on, we need to bring someone else in on this project because we just don't have the capacity to do it on that level, which is
definitely,
it's fine. And what's good about the way you guys run it, and obviously the aim of a charity is that it's not really about you, if you know what I mean. It's about the service user. So if we can get them on the right path, like that's what we want. That's the ideal scenario, really.
Everything we're doing is in the interest of the spinal cord injured person, or the person affected by somebody else's spinal cord injury. So absolutely, I would agree.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, we run projects all the time, which are around growing our capacity and being able to bring new skills into the team and being able to support users in completely different ways.
Yeah.
So last year we had a really successful project with a group called the October Club, which are a group of kind of London City philanthropists, and they run an annual, well, usually annual, dinner at the Savoy in London, and we put together a project with them, which was around the spinal cord injury nurse specialists.
Yeah.
And it was to fund it for 3 years. And, they managed to raise enough to successfully fund that service in its entirety, for going from having 2 nurses to having 4 nurses and a telephone and inbox support system as well. So that's, we identify the need, we put the project plan together, and we go off and look for somebody to support it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we work.
Scream and shout from the rooftops till someone pays attention. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's fair enough. I'll roll that video now then.
Yeah.
If I can.
Thanks.
2 seconds. It keeps not capturing the right video, so give me a second. Bit of a technical hiccup as always. It's the Chat with Counsellor and Wellbeing Officer Ian Young Husband, isn't it?
Right.
That's the one, yeah. So I'll play this one now. Sorry, go on.
He's a local lad.
Okay, we've got a local lad on, right? Sound. I'll play that out and I will just mute my
Hello, Ian Young Husband here. I'd just like to say a few words about SIA's Counselling Support Service, which is now available to offer you support. Some of you may know me from the Peer Support Service. Well, as a qualified counsellor, I'm really pleased to now be a part of the counselling service and be able to offer counselling support to all those affected by spinal injuries. Having been injured myself now for over 20 years following an accident, which I've lived experience now as I've got injuries at C5 level, complete injury. I feel I can offer that extra empathy really and understanding. I know in the past I've maybe felt people haven't quite understood what sort of challenges that can often be unique facing people, and it's something as well that affects all aspects of your life, not just the injured person but also their immediate family as well, which why we're really pleased to be able to offer support to all of those affected. So if you'd like to have a little bit more information, or if you'd maybe like to try and book some sessions, if you visit our website and just follow the counselling tab and fill in the online form, or if you ring our support line on 0800 980 0501, we'll look forward to hearing from you. Cheers, bye.
So I think, yeah, that's that video there. Cool, so that was Ian Young Husband, yeah?
Yeah, that's him.
There we go, back on. Yeah, so that was really good, and there was a little bit of information if anyone did want to get in touch or pass that on. But I think I just want to quickly check the chat because Mark or Viv was saying something, but I didn't quite catch it because the screen froze. He's had to go, but before that he said his dad's side of the family had a very rare spinal disease, degeneration of the spinal cord. Most died young and had blindness, and in a wheelchair. He told me when I was 18 not to have children. Yeah. I don't know if he's been screened for that. I'll double check with him. He's left now, but I'll give him a shout because he doesn't, as far as I know, he hasn't got it. So he might have dodged that one.
Yeah.
But it is yeah, I mean, I suppose you guys could come across, it can be like a genetic thing as well, rather than someone who's had an accident.
It's like there's a big percentage of people who have a spinal cord injury because they have an accident, like a fall or a motorbike accident or, a car crash or something like that. But it can be from an illness.
Yeah.
So we've got colleagues who have had things like viruses which have attacked their nervous system.
Okay.
And it's done permanent irreversible damage to the spinal cord, and they've then become injured because of it. So yeah, there can be a whole range of things. There's a illness called caudal equina, which is where at the lower part of the back, it's like a spinal compression, and it can basically pinch the spinal column and the spinal cord, and create permanent damage. Yeah, so there's kind of all sorts of things that can happen really. So spinal cord injury can be something that kind of happens instantly on the site of an accident, or it can be something that happens over time as like things in your body start to break down, and it ends up being your spinal cord that is attacked and sustains the damage.
Yeah, because there is,
which I think
there's a lot of
not
viruses,
a lot of people
isn't
are
there?
aware of that.
There's a lot that I can't remember the main one. It's not meningitis, is it? Does meningitis give you back problems, or am I getting that wrong?
It can do, yeah, definitely can.
Like it
then
causes like lasting effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can get things like spinal tumours.
Yeah.
And sometimes the tumour itself can cause a spinal cord injury, or the surgery that is potentially necessary to save somebody's life can be the thing that then goes on to cause the injury.
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots of ways that people can sustain their injuries.
Yeah,
sure.
It's probably something you don't really think about. I mean, unless it's happening or someone you know, it's probably not at the forefront of your mind. I think.
No,
as well.
exactly. You definitely don't wake up and go, I wonder if I'll become... Although when you work at the SIA, you become very, very aware of it.
Probably,
so you think about it quite a lot. But, your average person walking down the street doesn't think, I wonder if I'll become spinal cord injured at some point in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Daniel about it the other day. Like, you do some stupid stuff sometimes, and you think like you're lucky to get out of that, like without seriously hurting yourself. Sometimes you don't take it because like we are quite fragile, really. I know, like the human body is quite resilient in some ways, but when you think about it, it's actually not, and it doesn't take much. For you to end up with, even like you get a virus, like you can get a virus that's it's pretty much out of your control. Like you've breathed in some funny air, and like now you've got this thing, and that's it. So it is.
And that's exactly what happened to one of my colleagues.
Yeah.
A guy called Dave. He talks about it quite openly, but he basically had a cold that long term resulted in a spinal cord injury.
And that's it, and it's good that you guys are there to provide the support as well, and I think the network thing is probably the biggest one, because it's that like lived experience of, okay, it's not just someone telling you what, like it's not just a page on Google saying, oh, why didn't you try this? Like it's someone who's been there and done it, and they probably, you're not coming at an angle, oh well, you've got to do this, but it's like, oh well, this will help, and this could make you feel better, or what, have you tried this? And it's support rather than instructions, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Definitely. And it gives people hope in as much that they can look at somebody who's had their injury for 20 years and they can see that they're having what you'd call a normal life. It is normal because it's normal to them. That is life for them now, and it is fulfilled, and they are doing the things that they want to do, and they have got partners and families, and they are getting involved in sport, like disability sport, and they are having employment and all the things that people want from life. So
I mean, you mentioned the disability sport, but like I always look at the Great North Run when they have the wheelchair event, and I'm like, there's not a chance I could get around the Great North Run circuit using my arms. Like this, I couldn't do it with my legs, never mind my arms. So fair play, do you know what I mean? Like that's some training must go into that. To have that upper body strength to get yourself round. What is it, like, was it again? How long was it?
13.1 miles. 13.1.
That's some shift, that, like, on the old handbike. That's, that's shoulders and arms and back and chest and everything. That's a full week at the gym, that, never mind a day. So it's definitely, I think that's quite an important point as well, like a fulfilled life, not necessarily a normal life, I think, is a good way to look at it. Yeah. So I mean, we're coming towards the end, so I thought I didn't include it as a question, but what is the sort of Northeast offer? Just because obviously that's where we're based, and if we were going to do any kind of work or signpost anyone, that would be where they would be from.
So obviously, as I've said, all the services that we offer are national, and they're available to anybody affected by SCI. You've heard on the video from Ian there, who's the local lad, so he does the counselling and wellbeing stuff, and he does offer a national service. But obviously, if there was anybody from the Northeast who needed that kind of support, then sometimes it's nice and identifiable to be talking to someone who is local. He's based in Concert, so really, really local. Carol Adcock is our spinal cord injury nurse specialist, and she covers the North East, North West and North Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So she's a nurse who's got direct experience of working specifically with spinal cord injured people. So she knows lots and lots about the other health complications that can come from having an SCI. We've also got a fantastic support network officer called Andy Wharton, and he is the North Eastern Yorkshire SCI support network officer. He was injured in a fall about 20 years ago, so like we've talked about, he's got that lived experience of the challenges that you face as an SCI person.
No, great.
And then they're not actually part of SIA, but they're what we call a trusted partner. So we work with a firm called CFG Law, and they support some of our work. So they're one of our corporate supporters, and they also take on the cases for spinal cord injured people who need to get access to resources that resulting from the what's involved off the back of their injury. So that's helping them to secure enough funding for their like home adaptations and PA and carer costs, all the things that you're going to need as a spinal cord injured person. So
and again, stuff you probably don't know about if you're if you're one of the family members or you're the person themselves. That's probably not what you're thinking about, I'd imagine, at the time.
It's not. But actually, the quicker that you get involved with a legal partner, the better, in as much that if you do have grounds for a claim, you're going to have an easier rehabilitation journey if you can access some of those resources like as soon as possible. So that's why we work with CFG in the region and with other law firms like them in the other regions in England. So
Oh, cool. Really good. So yeah, I didn't include this, so you might not have any notes on this. So again, but volunteers, because we do get quite a few questions, and we do actually run a volunteering course to upskill volunteers. So is there a clear pathway to get involved with SIA, or is it a bit up in the air at the minute?
Well, so under normal circumstances, would put volunteer inquiries into our volunteer database, and then they'd be able to come along and attend events. So like they might come along and help on the night at like the Cornflower Ball, which happens in Manchester every year, or like one of the London events. So they might come along and cheer on if we had some runners in the Great North Run, they might come and stand on the sidelines, but obviously none of that's really happening at the moment. We do have some office volunteers which usually come into SIA House in Milton Keynes, but again, because it's remote at the moment, a few of them have been working remotely and supporting us where they can on the admin side of things. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, that can all be done through a lady called Jen Sims, she's actually our HR manager, but she coordinates on the volunteer side of things as well.
That sounds like a very HR job, to be fair. So she sounds she sounds well placed to do that. So yeah, guys, if anyone is interested in any kind of volunteering or fundraising as well, again, just get in touch and we can get you some details passed along.
So things we've got coming up between now and Christmas, we've got the at-home Winter Wonder Wheels, which is like the only disability event, disability mass participation event in the UK. It's of something called the Superhero Triathlon, which normally happens in the summer.
Yeah.
But this is the Winter Wonder Wheels, and because it's COVID and everybody's distance, we're doing at home this year. So it runs from the 5th of November through to the 6th of December. And you can pretty much do any challenge. You can do it solo or as a team. And the only stipulation is that one of the team members should identify as having a disability.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's that. There's Christmas.
So with that one as well, we'll see, because we'll see what we can do to just push some of that stuff as well. Social wise and see what we can,
that'd be great.
Can get out, because obviously I don't know what in terms of getting involved, but same goes, guys, if you do want to get involved. That was the one thing I wanted to quickly do actually, is while you explain the rest of that, I'll find your social media and I'll put it in the description of this video, guys. So it'll be, if you just click down on see more or more info, it'll all be in there. So that was Wonder Wheels. What was you saying was next?
So then we're also working towards doing a virtual Christmas Carol concert on the 14th of December. All the details are kind of still being organised at the moment, but that's the date that we're aiming for. And with that, it'll be a bit like what you're doing today, where we'll stream it out on YouTube on the day and time.
Yeah.
And then people will be invited to make a donation in lieu of attending on the day. And then the next big event we've got coming up, I guess, is the London Marathon for 2021 will be announced in January. So if anybody has put in for the ballot and they're lucky enough to get a place and they haven't chosen a charity yet, then we would absolutely love to have you come and run for SIA.
Yeah. So with that sort of thing, obviously I know we're hoping that events will go forward. If people are interested in doing them, just get in touch as a general inquiry and just
that's fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
Find them something to do. But you know, people that can donate direct, that can take up a challenge event if there's not an event that we are running, but they feel like doing something themselves and then just doing a bit of fundraising.
Yeah.
We will support them with that. They'll get exactly the same support as if they were taking a charity place in like the marathon. They'll get a fundraising pack. I'm on the phone for advice. They can contact me by email. They'll get a t-shirt, all the stuff that you would expect them to have.
Just the standard pack.
You can just do something small that, like, you know, it makes a massive impact for us, like buy a pack of Christmas cards from our website. If you've got a particular issue around disability that you want to push, you can get in touch with our campaigns team, or you can contact your local MP about it and sort of help to champion a particular kind of social issue that needs challenging. There's so many things that you can do with us, and it's not necessarily just about please donate money.
Yeah. So do you guys do any kind of, like, I don't want to say consultant because that makes it sound like it's in like a big financial business again, but like if there's a project going on, are you like involved to say, okay, how's it going to be, like, say, accessible, wheelchair accessible, for example?
Yeah, I mean, we get asked for stuff like that all the time because we look at it with a completely different lens.
Yeah.
So we do get asked when we've got partners that are organising things. They might say, in fact, one of our trustees actually works for one of the big, as you've actually, funnily enough, mentioned, consultancy firms.
Yeah.
And he's spinal cord injured, and he is helping the organisation that he works for to put in place some like accessibility requirements and to make some of the buildings a bit more fit for purpose and to update the guidelines and make sure that it's more inclusive. And so positive stuff like that is coming out. Also, our campaigns team are always working with MPs and policymakers in government, and sort of scrutinising papers that are put out by government and public consultations that are put out, and making sure that our members' views and us, like our staff themselves as spinal cord injured people, that their views are taken into account when these sorts of things are sorted out. So definitely involved in that side of things.
Someone has to take the policymakers to task. So good. At least we can have it on that front, and then we'll be making some progress, I think, hopefully. And then it won't all have to be Premier League footballers, because I think Marcus Rashford's probably getting a bit sick at the minute. Like,
I think he probably is.
He's fighting a good fight, isn't he?
He is.
Bless him. So but
no, if you're interested in anything, really, obviously you've put the social media stuff, and our website is spinal.co.uk. It's as simple as that.
I'll stick that in the chat actually as well, just so it's in there if anyone's watching back. Because I know a couple of the guys watch back at a later time, so I'll whack the website in there. And if you're looking for the social media, they're in the description now. So there you go.
Thanks. And then there's one last video, which is just a bit of a roundup, really. It's from the 2.6 challenge that we talked to earlier.
Yeah, I tell you what I'll do with that, so it's not lagging the stream out to death. We'll wrap the call up, and I'll play that out as the outro to the stream.
Excellent.
So we'll play the 2.6 video. But just a massive thank you for coming along today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, just a bit of inside information. Reema couldn't really say no because she is my sister. So if she'd said no, there would have been hell on. So but thanks anyway.
No, honestly though, thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Like I say, we're always looking for local stuff to tap into as well. So if there is anything more we can do, let us know. And if a couple of the guys are interested as well in various different things, so expect some kind of correspondence soon.
I will. Thanks. Cheers.
Champion, right, thank you very much. I'll end that call and say goodbye, and then I'll play that video.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers.
See you later. Good weekend.
Yeah,
bye.
You too. Bye. Okay, cool. Right, guys, give me a sec. I'll play that last video out for you, and then we'll call the stream there, except I'm clicking on all the wrong buttons in a blind panic. It's Friday afternoon, man. You know how it is. Hang on a minute. Where are we at? There we're at. We'll get there, man. We'll get there. Don't worry. So I'm gonna try my best to not lag the stream to death by playing this video. As you know, my computer has its moments where it just sort of decides it's working or not. And this is currently one of those moments. I think you should be able to see the video now. I'm going to mute my mic and then I'll end the stream there. So thank you very much. So yeah, guys, that was the final video there. The one thing I forgot to do was paste the survey into the chat, so I'm going to quickly do that. If before you guys go, if you could quickly click on that, spend about 30 seconds filling that in, that would be great. And then I'm going to end the stream there. I'm going to stick the sort of helpline image on to finish. I'm going to leave you a minute or so to fill that survey, and then I'm going to end the stream there. So yeah, thank you very much and have a good weekend. Bye bye.